family moved a lot. Now I know what we were running from. Hey there, you brave souls. You ever wonder what it's like to live a life where the ground never stays still under your feet? Where every day's a new horizon, but you don't know why you're running? That was me, back when I was a kid. Thought it was a game at first, an endless vacation. Picture this. Me and my family rattling around in an old RV, bouncing from one place to another. One week we'd be kicking dust in San Diego, the next we'd be shivering up in Boise. Didn't know much about where we came from, just that we popped into the world in Seattle, and stopping, that wasn't an option. We were different, my folks always said so. Special. Me and my twin sister Hannah, we were their miracles, born after years of them clawing at hope with bloody fingers. Guess that's why they hovered over us like ghosts themselves, always watching, always guarding. Got old fast, let me tell you, but deep down, it felt good knowing we were their everything. Hannah and I, we were thick as thieves. Had to be. Homeschooling in an RV doesn't exactly hand you a pack of friends on a silver platter. We were our own little world, cut off from everyone else. Never parked anywhere fun either. No campgrounds with ice cream stands or pools to splash in. Nope. It was always some dirt track twisting into the deep woods, far from anything bright or alive. Peaceful, maybe, if you're into that kind of quiet. But if you've ever lived near a forest, you know it's got teeth, sharp ones, and it doesn't play nice if you poke it. I didn't catch on that something was wrong, not really, till we hit 6 right before our 7th birthday. We were camped out near Bend, Oregon, middle of nowhere, trees swallowing us whole. Mom and Dad had rules. Don't sneak out, don't leave their sight. But come on, we were 6, full of mischief, with a forest stretching out like a dare. What did you expect? Waited till they were out cold, snores rumbling through the RV, then we slipped out. Window was just a plastic flap with a zipper. Popped it open, easy as breathing. Took off into the dark with nothing but a junky lantern flickering in my hand. Didn't get far before it hit me. A glow. Not ours. Something else pulsing up ahead through the trees. My stomach twisted, but my feet kept moving. Hannah's breath hitched beside me, could feel her nerves buzzing like static. Took a few more steps and there she was. A woman, standing there with a little torch in her hand, flame licking the air. But she wasn't right, not human right. Hair all matted, chunks missing like something had clawed it out. Skin, blue-gray, peeling, rotting, like she'd been left out too long. Teeth yellow, jagged, a few gone, and I swear I saw bone gleaming where her jaw hung loose. Hospital gown clung to her, stained and torn. Nearest hospital had to be hours away. Last paved road we'd seen was a memory by then. We froze. Me and Hannah, rooted to the dirt, staring at this thing. First time in forever I grabbed her hand, didn't care if we'd sworn off sappy sibling stuff. That, whatever she was, she reached out. Long bony arms stretching toward us, fingers like twigs about to snap. Then she moaned. Low, guttural, barely words. Ma-da-da. Sound hit me like a slap, woke me up. I ran, dragging Hannah behind me, her sneakers skidding in the mud. Somehow we made it back. Slid through that flimsy window, hearts hammering, and didn't wake a soul. Didn't sleep either. Just sat there, wide-eyed, replaying it. Couldn't even grunt a good morning to Mom and Dad, let alone tell them what we'd seen. Would they believe us? 2 kids spinning a yarn about a dead woman in the woods? Doubt it. But morning came and they didn't have a choice. Opened the RV door and our camp was gone, wrecked. Fire pit, Ashes, sticks we doodled with, snapped, covered in black soot. Little table with our bean cans, smashed to bits. Sure, animals hit us sometimes. Woods'll do that. But this wasn't claws or teeth. This was planned. Like something with a brain had torn through it all. Then I saw the back of the RV, scrawled there, in our own charcoal, big and jagged. You can't run forever. My blood went cold. Hannah's eyes locked on mine, wide and glassy. Mom started frying eggs like nothing happened. Dad scrubbed at the mess, but I could see their hands shaking. We packed up fast, hit the road before the sun climbed high. Drove for hours, no stops, not even to pee. Up front, they whispered, voices tight and low. Couldn't catch a word, but it stuck to me anyway. That feeling, like a shadow you can't shake. Night rolled in, and maybe they saw how rattled we were, 'cause they did something rare. Took us to a diner, grubby little joint empty as a graveyard. They liked it that way, hated crowds. Me? I was in heaven. Root beer float, greasy burger, 6-year-old gold. Savored every bite till the door creaked open. Just an old trucker shuffling in, but Mom and Dad went stiff. Grabbed us mid-meal and bolted. Didn't get it. Still don't, not then. But I sulked all the way back to my bunk, that glorified plank I called a bed. Hannah piped up, voice small. Why do we have to leave? Mom sighed, long and heavy, like she'd been holding it in forever. You're almost 7, Ethan. Hannah, guess that's old enough. We left 'cause we're scared of losing you. Remember when you were 4? My memory's a fog, always has been. But Hannah nodded slow, like she could see it clear as day. Said we were in Olympia, not far from Seattle, running wild in a field. Big guy in camo and boots stomped up, knelt down to our level. We don't talk to strangers, Hannah told him, prim as ever. I'm Dave, he said, grinning. Not a stranger now. What are your names? Ethan, I blurted. And that's Hannah. We're 4. Birthday's July 26th, 2002. Least that's what she says, I said. Probably just making me sound like a dope. His smile dropped. Grabbed our hands rough, started pulling us away. Let's go somewhere fun, he said, voice hard. Gotta take you somewhere else. Mom's eyes glistened. If we hadn't caught you, me getting you safe, your dad. Dad cut in, cold as ice. Shot that bastard in the leg. Hope he crawled home bleeding. Hannah and I stared at each other, mouths shut tight. Okay, Daddy, she mumbled, climbing over me to her bunk. Good night. So there we were, Hannah and me, tucked back in our bunks after that diner night, the RV humming along some forgotten road. I don't even know where we stopped. Maybe near Spokane, maybe Idaho's edge, doesn't matter. Night pressed in thick and I couldn't sleep. Kept seeing that trucker's shadow in my head, Mom's teary eyes, Dad's cold voice talking about shooting a man. Rolled over, stared out that flimsy plastic window, and that's when I saw her again. Yeah, her. The woman from the woods in Bend. She was back, standing out there in the dark, torch gone now, just her shape against the trees. That hospital gown flapped around her like a shroud, stained and ragged. Her bony hand reached out, same as before, fingers trembling like they could snap. Those eyes, hollow, glinting, locked on me and Hannah, sprawled in our bunks. Ma, duh, she moaned, low and broken. I flipped over fast, yanked the blanket up, but it didn't help. Couldn't shake the feeling she was still there, staring. That's how it went after that. Her shadow dogging us wherever we rolled. Hit Oregon? She'd be lurking. Nevada's dusty back roads, right there, waiting. Colorado's mountains. You damn well know it. Every stop, every night she'd find us. Didn't matter how far we drove, how deep into the woods we hid. She was part of the scenery now, like the trees or the wind. Hannah and I stopped sneaking out after Bend. Growing up dulled the itch to explore, sure, but that night carved something raw into us. Still, she didn't quit. Caught her on highways sometimes, a blur in the rear view as we sped past. Other times, she'd hover just beyond the campfire's glow, close enough to see her rotting skin, far enough to pretend she wasn't real. On rare trips into towns, grabbing food, supplies, I'd swear I saw her in the crowd, slipping between people like smoke. Always with that cry, "Ma, da, da." Used to make my guts twist. After a while, it just didn't. Not as much. Life kept moving, though, us in that rattling RV, Mom and Dad up front, whispering secrets we couldn't hear. Years piled up, and we got older, taller, quieter. By the time we were creeping up on 14, things felt different. Not safe exactly, but steady, like we'd made peace with the weirdness. Then came the day before our birthday. Mom and Dad left the RV, said they'd be back in a couple hours, something about birthday stuff. Parked us maybe an hour's walk from a town, close enough to hear civilization's hum, far enough to feel the woods breathing down our necks. Wasn't scared, not really. We'd been in the wild so long we knew the rules. Leave the forest alone. It leaves you alone. That lady in the gown? She turned into background noise. Annoying, not terrifying. Almost forgot her, if you can believe it. I was sprawled out, nose in a book, losing myself in the pages, while Hannah rummaged around for something to eat. RV was a mess, always was, but it was home. "Ethan, get over here," she called, voice sharp enough to yank me out of my story. I groaned. What now? We'd been in this tin can nearly 14 years. I knew every dent, every creak. Nothing new to see. Wrong. She'd pulled the cushion off the driver's seat. Don't ask me why. And there it was. A box. Small, beat up, flattened from years of Dad's weight squashing it. Still, you could tell it was something. Hannah's eyes lit up and she grabbed it, popping the lid like it was Christmas. Papers inside. "Forget it," I said. Probably just tax crap or whatever. But her face went funny, confusion melting into something darker, and I shut up quick. Looked closer. Birth certificates. Ours. Except the names weren't right. I was Ethan Jr., but nobody in our family's Ethan. Father listed, Ethan. Mother, Sarah. Our parents were Lisa and Tom, or so we thought. Hannah and Ethan Hayes, that's who we were. Not this. Adopted, maybe, I tossed out, voice thin. She didn't answer, just dug deeper, pulled another sheet, handed it to me, fingers shaking bad. Infants gone from Seattle Hospital, July 27th, 2002. Twins, Ethan James Walker Jr. and Hannah Sarah Walker. Search still on. Tell the cops if you know anything. Walker. James. That wasn't us. We were Hayes. My head spun. "This is nuts," I muttered, but Hannah was already grabbing more, her breath hitching. Next paper hit like a punch. Seattle mom murdered in hospital. Sarah Walker, 27, just had twins, now missing, smothered in her bed. Police sketch of suspects. We stared at the drawing, not spot on, but close, too close. Two faces we'd known forever, Mom and Dad, Lisa and Tom, or whoever they were. CCTV catches suspects slipping out a back door with the babies. Search goes on. Don't approach, call the law. Silence swallowed us. Hannah's hand shook as she reached for the last paper. Dated 2006. We'd been 4. Washington man spots missing kids, gets attacked by suspects. 4-year cold case cracks open. Father of victims, Ethan Walker, says, "To my little ones, don't know where you are, but I'll never stop hoping I see you again. You don't know me, and that's okay. I love you. Always will. Dad, nothing to say. What do you even do with that?" We just stood there, air thick, hearts pounding. Then, bang. Something hit the RV hard. We jumped, spun to the window. Her, closer than ever. That gown flapping, blue-gray skin gleaming in the dim light. Hazel eyes, Hannah's eyes, boring into us. "Duh," she groaned, arms stretching out. I grabbed the clipping, the one with the victim's photo, Sarah Walker, and held it up. Same face, rotted and wrong, but her. Duh. My babies. That's what she was saying. All this time, chasing her babies. Hannah moved first, stepped out the door. I froze, brain screaming, but this day was already unhinged. Followed her. She stood there, tears streaking her face. "Mama," she whispered. Duh, the woman rasped, reaching again. Hannah didn't flinch, let that bony hand brush her cheek, soft as a sigh. Did the same to me, cold fingers on M pointed, toward town. Goo, she croaked. "Go." "Why?" Hannah asked, voice cracking. Da. Dad, Ethan Walker Sr. Still out there, maybe? 2 hours till they're back, Hannah said, cutting herself off. Lisa and Tom, I mean. We got to go. Now. Didn't know the way, but we ran anyway. Something pulling us, guiding us through the dark. He took us home. His home. A house, not an RV. Real walls, real beds, our own rooms. No more running. No more woods swallowing us whole. Sounded nice, peaceful even, but it was weird. Too still. First night I couldn't sleep. Kept hearing the hum of an engine that wasn't there. Snuck into Hannah's room, curled up on her floor like old times. She didn't kick me out. Guess she felt it too, that empty ache where the chaos used to be. Weeks passed, slow and strange. Got used to it, bit by bit. School, real school, loomed ahead. People staring, whispering about the lost twins. Dad tried hard, cooked us dinners, told us stories about Sarah, our mom. Said she'd been fierce, funny, loved us more than anything. Showed us pictures, her laughing, belly round with us, hazel eyes bright. Same eyes Hannah had. Made my chest hurt, seeing her like that. Not the rotting thing in the woods, but alive once. One night I woke up, fast. Tap, tap, tap on the window. Hannah bolted up too, breath catching. Looked out and there she was. Sarah, the lady in the gown, standing in the yard, staring up at us. But she didn't look the same. Less decayed, less broken. Skin still gray, but smoother. Hair less wild, eyes softer. Happier, maybe. Like something in her had settled. "Mama," I whispered, voice shaking. Could she stay? Could we have her back? Have that family I'd started dreaming of? She didn't answer, not with words. Just reached out, hand steady, and I swear I felt it. Cold, faint, brushing my face through the glass. Hannah pressed her palm to the window, tears streaking down. "I have to go, my babies," she said, clear this time. No moan, no slur, soft and sad. Started fading, gown, hand, eyes, melting into the night like fog. "Wait," Hannah choked, but she was gone. She was gone. Sarah, our real mom, faded into the Seattle night like smoke, leaving me and Hannah staring out that window, hands pressed to the glass. Her last words hung there, soft and heavy. "I have to go, my babies." Didn't know what to say, what to feel. Part of me wanted to scream, drag her back. Part of me just went numb. Hannah wiped her face, sniffed hard, and crawled back to bed. I stayed put, watching the dark, half hoping she'd flicker back. She didn't. Morning came gray and quiet. Dad, Ethan Sr., was already up, clattering pans in the kitchen, trying to play normal. Pancakes sizzled, coffee brewed, but it felt wrong. Too still. For 14 years I'd woken to the RV's rumble, the road stretching out endless. Now, walls boxed me in, and the silence pressed like a hand on my chest. Hannah shuffled in, eyes puffy, and we ate without talking. So there we were, Hannah and me, tearing through the woods like the devil himself was on our heels. Didn't know where we were headed, just that town was out there, an hour's trek maybe, and something was pulling us toward it. The lady in the gown, Sarah, our real mom, had pointed the way, her bony finger trembling in the dusk. "Da, da," she'd said. Dad, Ethan Walker Sr., was he waiting? Did he even know we were alive? 2 hours till Lisa and Tom got back to the RV. 2 hours to figure out what the hell was happening. Branches clawed at us as we ran, snapping underfoot, the air sharp with pine and rot. Hannah's breath puffed out in little clouds. She was ahead, always faster, always braver. Me, I kept tripping, sneakers catching roots, but I didn't stop. Couldn't. That moan, ma-da-da, echoed in my head, softer now, like she was still with us, pushing us on. The forest didn't care, didn't open up or guide us. But somehow we knew. Every turn, every stumble, it felt right, like a thread tugging us through the dark. We burst out of the trees onto a dirt road, panting, sweat stinging my eyes. Town wasn't far. Could see lights flickering, hear the faint hum of life. Looked back once, half expecting her to be there, gown flapping in the wind. Nothing. Just shadows and silence. Hannah grabbed my arm. "Come on, Ethan. Sheriff's office, now." Her voice was steady, but her eyes were wild. Same hazel as Sarah's, glinting in the faint moonlight. Stumbled into the sheriff's office like a pair of drowned rats. Mud on our jeans, hair a mess, chests heaving. Guy behind the desk jumped, coffee sloshing over his hand. "Jesus, kids, what's wrong?" Didn't even know where to start. Hannah did, though. She always did. Spilled it all. The RV, the papers, the hospital, the murder. Words tumbled out fast, tripping over each other. But he listened. Really listened. Pulled out a notepad, started scribbling, face going tight when she mentioned Seattle, 2002, the missing twins. "Stay here," he said, voice gruff, and disappeared into a back room. Came back with another guy, older, badge glinting, eyes sharp. More questions. Names, dates, where'd you come from? We gave him what we had, Ethan and Hannah Hayes, born July 26, 2002, raised by Lisa and Tom. Then the box, the papers, Ethan Jr. and Hannah Walker. Showed him the clippings, crumpled and damp from my pocket. Older guy's jaw clenched. "Wait here," he said again, and they started making calls. Sat there for what felt like forever. Chairs hard and cold, the clock ticking too loud. Hannah kept twisting her hands, knuckles white. I just stared at the floor, mind spinning. Lisa and Tom, our parents or not, were out there, probably back at the RV by now, wondering where we'd gone. What did they do when they saw the box open? The papers gone? Did they know we knew? Sheriff came back, face grim. "DNA test," he said. "Need to confirm who you are. Willing?" We nodded. Didn't have a choice. Took swabs from our cheeks, quick and painless. But it felt like they were peeling us open. Sent 'em off, said it'd take time. Then the hunt started. They tracked the RV, somehow pinned it down near those woods outside Bend. Lisa and Tom didn't run far. Cops found 'em, hauled 'em in, cuffs clinking. Didn't see it happen, didn't need to. Knew it was real when the sheriff sat us down, voice low. They're in custody. We're digging deeper. After that, chaos. News crews swarmed like flies, cameras flashing, mics shoved in our faces. Missing twins found, they yelled. Wretches of the woods nabbed. That's what they called Lisa and Tom. Wretches of the woods, like something out of a fairy tale gone wrong. Guess it fit. Stole us from a hospital, hid us in the wild, raised us like we were theirs. Part of me hated them for it. Part of me didn't know how to feel. 14 years they'd been mom and dad. Now they were monsters in a cage. Days blurred, interviews, questions, more tests. Then the call came. DNA matched. Ethan James Walker Jr. and Hannah Sarah Walker, stolen from Seattle, July 27th, 2002. Proof was in our blood. Sheriff arranged a flight, my first ever, wheels up to Seattle. Stomach flipped the whole way, turbulence rattle in my bones. Landed, and there he was, Ethan Walker Sr., our dad, real dad. Stood in the airport, gray hair, eyes red, tears spilling the second he saw us. Ran over, arms out, sobbing like a kid. My babies, he kept saying, voice breaking. Hannah flinched. I just stood there, numb. Didn't cry, didn't hug back. He was my dad, sure, biologically. But who was he? Met him when I was hours old, then nothing till now. Couldn't feel it, that connection. Not yet. Dad kept glancing at us, nervous, like he was waiting for something to break. Days turned into weeks, and we settled, or tried to. Real life crept in slow. School started, a brick building full of kids who stared too long, whispered too loud. That's them, they'd say, the RV twins, the ones from the woods. Didn't bother correcting them. Hayes or Walker didn't matter much. Teachers went easy on us, gave us space, but the work piled up anyway. Math, history, stuff we'd half learned from Lisa's old books. Felt like drowning sometimes, but Hannah powered through. Always did. Me? I scraped by, mind drifting back to the trees, the road, her. Nights were the worst. That house, Dad's house, was too big, too empty. My room had a bed, a desk, a window looking out on a tidy yard. No plastic flap, no forest breathing down my neck. Should have been nice, right? But I couldn't sleep alone. Kept hearing echoes that weren't there. Tires on gravel, that low moan. Ma, da, da. Most nights I'd sneak into Hannah's room, crash on her floor with a blanket. She never said a word about it, just shifted over, made space. Guess she got it. We'd spent our whole lives side by side. Alone didn't fit us yet. Dad tried to fill the gaps, told us about Sarah over dinner, how they'd met in college, how she'd hum off-key while cooking, how she'd fought to have us after years of bad luck. Showed us more photos, her in a sundress laughing, her holding baby clothes, grinning wide. She'd have loved you fierce, he'd say, voice cracking. Made me ache, made me mad too. Where was he when we were running? When Lisa and Tom dragged us through the wild? Locked up now, sure, serving life in some Oregon pen, but they'd had us. He hadn't. One night I asked, couldn't hold it in. Why didn't you find us? Voice came out sharper than I meant, cutting through the clink of forks on plates. Hannah froze, eyes flicking between us. Dad set his glass down slow, hands trembling. I tried, Ethan, he said, quiet. Every day, cops, PIs, flyers, everything. That night in the hospital, when they took you, he stopped, swallowed hard. Lost her, then you. Kept hoping, but the trail went cold. Till that guy in Olympia spotted you, got hurt. Even then, they slipped away. Didn't know what to say. Felt bad, kinda, but the anger didn't budge. He'd hoped. We'd run. Hannah reached over, squeezed my hand under the table, shut me up before I said something worse. Dinner ended quiet, and I went to bed feeling like a jerk. But not wrong. Time kept moving, got used to the house, the routine, made a friend or two, quiet kids who didn't ask much. Hannah joined some art club, started sketching trees in shadows, stuff that looked like our old life. Me, I stuck to books, horror mostly, stories about things lurking just out of sight. Felt familiar. Dad kept at it, took us to the coast once, showed us the ocean. First time I'd seen it up close, waves crashing gray and wild. "Your mom loved this," he said, wind tugging his words away. Smiled a little, first time in a while, but the quiet never lasted. Middle of the night, weeks later, it happened again. Tap, 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 sharp on the window. Jerked awake, heart slamming, and Hannah was already up, staring out. "Ethan," she whispered, voice tight. Looked, and there she was, Sarah, standing in the yard, gown fluttering, but different. Not as rotted, not as lost, skin still gray, but smoother, hair less wild, eyes clear and soft, like she'd found something or let something go. "Mama," I said, barely a breath. Wanted her to stay, wanted that family, whole and real, not this patched-together mess. She didn't move, just watched us, steady and sad. Hannah pressed her hand to the glass again, like last time, tears welling up. "Don't go," she murmured, but Sarah shook her head slow, knew what we were thinking, like always. "I have to go, my babies," she said, voice cutting through the night, clear as a bell. No slur, no moan, just her. Reached out, hand hovering, and I felt it, cold, faint, brushing my cheek through the pain. Hannah choked a sob, and I couldn't breathe. She started fading, edges blurring, gown dissolving, slipping into the dark like she'd never been there. "Wait," I yelled, slamming my fist on the window, but it was too late. Nothing left but the yard, the trees, the quiet. Hannah sank to the floor, knees up, face buried. I slid down next to her, staring at the spot where she'd been. Didn't say anything, didn't need to. We'd lost her again, and it hurt worse this time knowing who she was. Morning came and we didn't tell Dad. What's the point? Saw a ghost last night, doesn't roll off easy over cereal. He'd believe us, maybe, but it'd break him more, and he was already cracked. Kept it between us, like always. Day went on, school, homework, dinner. Normal stuff, but it felt hollow. Kept seeing her eyes, Hannah's eyes, watching us fade too. Nights after that got easier, then harder. Slept in my own room sometimes, but the dark pressed in, heavy with her absence. Hannah stopped sketching for a while, said it hurt too much. Dad noticed, asked if we were okay. Lied, said yeah, just tired. He bought it, or pretended to. Life kept going, but she stayed with us. Not out there, not anymore, but in the air, the quiet, the way we moved. Watching, always watching. After that night, Sarah fading into the dark, her voice still ringing in our ears, things shifted. Not big, not loud, but subtle, like a crack spreading through glass. Me and Hannah didn't talk about it much, not out loud, didn't need to. It was there in the way we looked at each other, the way we moved through Dad's house, Ethan Sr.'s house, like we were waiting for something to step out of the walls. She'd left us again, and this time it stuck. A bruise that wouldn't fade. Days kept coming, though. Seattle's gray hung over us, rain tapping the roof like fingers testing a lock. School dragged on. Kids still stared, but the whispers died down. Became old news, I guess. Hannah picked up her sketching again, slow at first, Scribbles of trees, jagged lines, shadows with no shape. Said it helped, getting it out. Me, I stuck to my books, horror stories about things that don't let go. Felt right, like I was reading our life back to myself. Dad kept trying. Dinners, stories, little trips to the coast. Your mom loved the waves, he'd say, staring out at the water, and I'd nod, not knowing what else to do. But the house never felt ours. Too still, too solid. 14 years in an RV, you get used to the sway, the hum, walls that move with you. This place, it pinned us down, and I hated it some nights. Kept sneaking into Hannah's room, crashing on her floor like a kid scared of the dark. She'd roll her eyes, mutter, "Ethan, grow up." But she never kicked me out. Think she needed it too. Someone close, someone who got it. Alone was a word we didn't know how to wear yet. Dad noticed the quiet, kept asking, "You okay? You sure?" We'd nod, mumble, "Yeah, just tired," and he'd let it drop. Didn't push, maybe couldn't. He'd lost too much already. Sarah, then us, then years chasing ghosts. Saw it in his eyes sometimes, that hollow look, like he was still waiting for her to walk through the door. Didn't tell him about the window, about her visits. What's the use? "Hey, Dad, your dead wife's been haunting us." Doesn't fit over meatloaf. He'd believe it, maybe cry, but it had cut him deeper, and we weren't cruel. Weeks turned into months, and we got better at pretending. Made friends, real ones. Hannah hung out with this girl, Mia, who liked art too. I found a guy, Jake, who read the same creepy books I did. Swapped paperbacks, talked about monsters like they were real. Felt good, having people who didn't know the RV, the woods, the wretches. Lisa and Tom, locked up tight in some Oregon cell, life sentences stretching out forever. Papers called them that, wretches of the woods. Made them sound like storybook villains, stealing kids, hiding in the wild. Guess they were, in a way. Raised us, fed us, kept us alive. But stole us first. Still couldn't sort it out in my head. Hate 'em or miss 'em. Both, maybe. Nights stayed tricky. Got braver, slept in my own room more. Forced myself to. But the dark had weight now. Heavier without her out there. Used to see her everywhere. Highways, campfires, crowds. Now, nothing. Just echoes. Ma-da-da. Soft in my skull, fading slow. Hannah felt it too. Saw it in her sketches, those shadows getting thinner, less real. "She's gone, Ethan," she said one night, pencil scratching paper. Really gone. Didn't argue. Knew she was right. Then came the dream. Middle of the night, pitch black, and I was back in the woods. Bend, maybe, or somewhere deeper. Trees loomed, air thick with rot. Heard her before I saw her. Ma-da-da, low and close. Turned, and there she was. Sarah, gown flapping, skin gray but whole, eyes sharp. Didn't reach out this time, just stood there, watching. "My babies," she said, clear, no moan, and smiled. Small, sad, real. Wanted to run to her, grab her, keep her. But my feet wouldn't move. She nodded, like she understood, then turned, walked into the trees. Woke up gasping, sheets soaked, heart hammering. Hannah was up too, staring at me from her doorway. "You saw her," she whispered. Didn't ask how she knew, just nodded. Didn't see her again after that, not for real, not in dreams. Months rolled by, and the house started feeling less like a cage. School got easier, friends got closer. Dad took us to Sarah's grave once, little stone in a quiet cemetery outside Seattle. Sarah Walker, it read, 1975 to 2002, beloved wife and mother. Stood there, rain dripping down my neck, and it hit me. She was gone, but not gone. Not really. Felt her in the air, the way the wind moved, the way Hannah's eyes caught the light. Dad put a hand on my shoulder, heavy and warm. She'd be proud, he said, voice rough. Believed him for once. Life kept going, normal or close to it. Turned 15, then 16. Hannah got good at art, won some award, hung a sketch in the hall. I stuck with books, started writing a little. Dark stuff, woods and ghosts. Jake said I had a knack. Dad smiled more, laughed even, and we got used to him. Started calling him Dad without thinking. Lisa and Tom faded, just names in old headlines now. Wretches of the Woods sounded like a ghost story we had outgrown. But she never left, not completely. Didn't see her, didn't hear her, but felt her. Watching, waiting, a shadow stitched into us. Hannah said it once, late over cold pizza. She's still here, Ethan. Always will be. Nodded, didn't argue. Knew it was true. Didn't scare me anymore. Felt right, like a piece we'd been missing, slotted back where it belonged. One night, wind howling outside, I looked out my window, same one she'd tapped on. Nothing there, just trees bending, rain streaking the glass. Smiled a little, first time in a while. "Night, Mama," I whispered, and turned away. Didn't need to see her to know she heard. Time's a funny thing, isn't it? Slips through your fingers like water, and before you know it, you're not the kid you used to be. Me and Hannah, we kept moving forward. Had to. Seattle became home, or something close. That house, Dad's house, stopped feeling like a trap. Walls didn't press in so hard anymore. The quiet didn't choke. Turned 16, then 17, and life stitched itself together, piece by jagged piece. School wasn't so bad now. Hannah's art took off. Teachers framed her stuff. All those twisted trees and shadows said she had vision. She'd shrug it off, but I saw her smile when no one was looking. Me, I kept writing. Dark little stories about things that watch from the woods, things that don't let go. Jake, my buddy, read 'em, said they gave him chills. Started thinking maybe I'd do something with it. Put 'em out there, see if anyone else felt the shiver. Dad, Ethan Sr., like that. "You got your mom's fire," he'd say, grinning over coffee. Started believing him, bit by bit. He got easier to be around, too. Not just some stranger with our blood. Real Dad now. Took us fishing once out near Tacoma. Showed us how to cast a line into the gray water. Laughed when I hooked my own shirt. Swore when Hannah outfished him. Felt good. Normal, almost. Nights at home, he'd tell us more about Sarah. How she'd dance in the kitchen, barefoot. Humming tunes she made up. "Loved you too before you even breathed," he said once, eyes far off. Didn't hurt as much to hear it anymore. Felt warm, like a fire I could sit by. Lisa and Tom, they faded, locked up tight in that Oregon prison. Life sentences stretching out like a road with no end. Wretches of the Woods. Papers still called them that, but it sounded old, distant, like a story we'd heard too many times. Didn't hate 'em as fierce now, didn't miss 'em either. They'd raised us, sure, kept us fed, alive, but they'd stolen us first. Took me years to untangle that knot. 14 years of Mom and Dad, undone by a box under a seat. Forgave 'em maybe in a quiet way. Not for them, for me. The woods didn't call like they used to dream of 'em. Bend, Nevada, Colorado, trees closing in, that low moan trailing me. Stopped after that last dream, the one where Sarah smiled and walked away. Didn't see her again, not out there, not tapping on glass. But she stayed. Oh, she stayed. In the air, the shadows, the way Hannah's sketches caught the light. Felt her most when I didn't look, watching, guarding, a ghost woven into us. One night late, I was up, writing, rain hammering the roof, wind rattling the windows. Story about a woman in a gown, chasing what she'd lost. Got lost in it, words spilling fast when Hannah poked her head in. "Can't sleep?" she asked, leaning on the frame. Shook my head. "You?" She shrugged, stepped in, sat on my bed. "Thinking about her," she said, voice soft. "Didn't need to ask who." "Me too," I said, pen stilling. Looked at her, those hazel eyes, Sarah's eyes, and it hit me. "She's not gone, Hannah. Not really." She nodded, slow, like she'd known it all along. "Never will be," she murmured. "She's us. Part of us." Smiled a little, first time in a while talking about her. Didn't sting. Wind howled louder and we sat there, quiet, listening. Felt her then, stronger than ever. Not out there, not a shape in the yard, just here, in the room, in the space between us. Didn't scare me, hadn't for a long time. Felt right, like a hand on my shoulder I couldn't see. "Night, Mama," I whispered, barely a breath, and Hannah echoed it, voice cracking soft. Got up, looked out the window, same one she'd tapped on years back. Rain streaked the glass, trees bent wild, but nothing else. No gown, no eyes, just the night, alive and loud. Turned back to Hannah, still on my bed, sketching now, quick lines, a figure in the dark. "She'd like this," she said, not looking up. "Us, I mean. Here." Nodded, didn't argue, knew it was true. Years kept rolling after that. Turned 18, big deal, right? Dad threw a party, small, just us and a few friends. Cake, music, laughs. Felt like something we'd earned. Hannah went off to college later, art school in Portland. Ironic, huh? Called me every week, said she missed the rain. I stayed in Seattle, wrote more, got a couple stories published, little mags, nothing huge, but it felt big. Dad clapped me on the back, proud as hell. "Your mom's smiling," he said, and I didn't doubt it. Never saw her again, not like before. No dreams, no taps, no shapes in the yard. But she didn't leave, couldn't. Felt her in the wind off the coast, the rustle of pages, the way Hannah's voice lifted when she laughed. Watched us, always. Didn't need to see her to know it. One night, alone, I walked to her grave, same quiet spot outside Seattle. Stood there, hands in my pockets, rain soaking through. "We're okay, Mama," I said, voice steady. "We're good." Wind picked up, brushed my face, cold, faint, like her hand once. Smiled, turned away, walked home. That's where it ends, I guess, or doesn't. Hannah and me, we stopped running, finally. No RV, no woods, no shadows chasing us down. Just life, messy and real, with her stitched into it. Didn't need to hide anymore, didn't need to fear. She'd found us, lost us, found us again. And this time, we stayed put. So, there you have it, folks. The road ends here for now. Ethan and Hannah, they stopped running, planted their feet in Seattle's damp earth, with Sarah's ghost woven into every breath they take. No more RV rattling through the night, no more wretches whispering lies. Just a family, fractured, stitched back rough, finding a way to stand still. But you feel it, don't you? That chill lingering on your neck. She's gone, sure, faded into the wind, but who says the shadows ever really let go? What about you? Ever felt something watching when the lights go dim? A tap, tap, tap you can't explain. Drop it in the comments. I want to hear your stories, the ones that keep you up staring at the ceiling. Maybe you've seen your own lady in a gown reaching out with bony fingers, or maybe it's something worse, something you can't name. Share it. Let's stir the dark together. If this tale sank its claws into you, smash that like button. Let me know you're out there hungry for more. Subscribe too, hit the bell, 'cause the next one's brewing and it's gonna crawl right under your skin. Got a ghost story you want me to spin? Toss it in the comments or shoot it my way. Let's see what nightmares we can wake up. Till then, sleep tight or don't. The woods are always listening, and I'll be back, whispering in your ear. Night, folks. Keep one eye open.